The 2022 Formula One season was an exciting one in which Red Bull and Max Verstappen dominated the F1 grid. There were some races where we saw some amazing comebacks. Let's take a look at the best 5 comebacks in the 2022 F1 season. 5. Alex Albon at the Australian GP. Soon after making his return to Formula One, Alexander Albon showed that he thoroughly deserved the place that Williams offered him. At the Australian Grand Prix, Albon was excluded from qualifying for failing to produce a fuel sample, which resulted in him being placed at the back of the grid. So his team gave him a new pair of C2 compound hard tyres to run on for the start of the race. The plan was to run for a longer period of time than those who were medium, and then to make use of any fortunate situations that arose, such as safety cars. Albon drove almost the entire race on the same set of hards and only came in on the last lap to change to softs. It earned him 10th place and thus a point, and a gamble it was. It was indeed a highly unusual strategy, at least in the Pirelli era. However, Red Bull pulled off a similar trick at Monza in 2010, changing Sebastian Vettel's tyres to new Bridgestones on the final lap and winning a 4th place as a result. This shows that the strategy has been successful in the past. With Pirelli tyres in play, we've seen scenarios such as Sochi in 2014, when Nico Rosberg locked up on the first lap and pitted to get rid of his flat-spotted tyres and was then able to run the rest of the race on hards. Even Pirelli was taken aback by the Albon strategy. Mario Isola said, "I understood they were protecting the position. They didn't want to change before because they were worried about traffic. I will say the first time probably in the last 12 years that I see a strategy like this with one car running for all the race." In the past, Rosberg changed on the first lap, and then he was running all the rest. In that case, it's a bit different because it is from the start of the race to lap 57. It was strange to see this approach. Although the pit stop on the very last lap worked out precisely in terms of securing that invaluable point, Isola pointed out that Williams still had a chance to perform even better. You're enjoying this video, right? You definitely don't want to miss out on other amazing videos. So all you have to do is hit the subscription button. It's that easy. Thanks for doing that. Let's move on. 4. Carlos Sainz at the Italian GP. At the start of the Italian Grand Prix, there were a lot of grid penalties, which even the FIA didn't know how to handle. Because of an engine change, Carlos Sainz was one of the drivers that had to begin the race from the back of the pack. Sainz started the race at Monza on Sunday in position 18, despite having qualified 3rd fastest, behind Ferrari teammate Charles Leclerc and Red Bull driver Max Verstappen. What followed was an impressive recovery drive as Sainz picked off the cars ahead to climb up to 4th position, a spot in front of Mercedes driver Lewis Hamilton, who also delivered a similarly impressive performance from P19 on the grid. Sainz commented that the late arrival of the safety car at Monza prevented him from passing the other Mercedes driver, George Russell. Speaking after the race, Sainz said, "I was a bit frustrated in the end. Obviously, I saw the podium very near, very close to me. In the last laps, I was catching George by 1.5 seconds. We were very quick out there. Unfortunately, the safety car came out after a very good race. A race where I had a lot of pace. I could make a lot of moves and put myself into podium contention very early." 3. Fernando Alonso at the Brazilian GP. Alpine's weekend of racing in Brazil did not get off to the best possible start when drivers Fernando Alonso and Esteban Ocon collided during the sprint race. The pair came close to contact at the first event's opening corners, and then Alonso briefly speared sideways into Ocon's right rear floor out of turn 4, which was a result of catching a big slide over the curbs following his teammate squeezing the outside line. Running down the pit straight later in the lap, Alonso clipped his teammate's right rear and broke his front wing. This ruined Alonso's sprint and earned a 5-second penalty, with Ocon later falling down the order as a result of the damage, and his car catching fire and park firm due to a fuel leak. Consequently, Alonso had to begin the race in 17th place. Nonetheless, this did not prevent the 2-time world champion from achieving the best possible outcome. Alonso had an outstanding race and ended up finishing in 5th place. It was his best result of the season, matching his performance at Silverstone and Spa, where he finished in the same position as he did in Brazil. Over the team radio, he couldn't hide his joy as he said, "Whoa, yes, congrats guys on a very good result, a very nice race, a good strategy, and a good comeback. Thank you, mate. Perfect execution on your side." 2. Max Verstappen at the Hungarian GP. Things didn't go according to plan for Ferrari at the Hungarian Grand Prix, which was meant to be their best chance to catch up with Red Bull Racing and win the championship. The Hungarian Grand Prix produced yet another massive shift in the championship's momentum, and it was indeed a defining one. Verstappen fought back from his reliability-hampered qualifying performance with a stonking pace and a superior Red Bull strategy to ultimately win the race. Verstappen made a strong start from 10th, moving up to 7th on the first lap. And as the race progressed, he matched the pace of the leading cars, Russell, Sainz, and Leclerc. He easily dispatched the Alpines and undercut Hamilton. But Leclerc too had a blasting pace once he had gotten ahead of Sainz, and he delivered the overtake of the day when he edged around the outside of Russell's Mercedes at turn 1, just before the halfway point of the race. He then opened up a 5-second lead. On the other hand, Verstappen's second stop looked to worry Ferrari, as evidenced by the fact that rather than responding with their second car, which was driven by Sainz, they stopped Leclerc. After having only used medium tyres up to this point and with over 20 laps yet to go, the hard tyres were put on, which were by far the slowest available on Sunday. At this point, Verstappen, who was still using medium tyres, was quickly in firing range. The reigning world champion overtook Leclerc with DRS on lap 41, but he lost that position the following lap when he spun out at turn 13, which almost gave Russell a chance to regain the lead. Instead, on lap 45, Verstappen regained his calm and moved back into first place, passing Leclerc in the process. Because of this, he was able to take the overall lead, and after Hamilton made his final pit stop, all that Verstappen needed to do was manage the pace of the race. Even a little rainfall during the latter stages of the competition was unable to dampen his spirits. 1. Max Verstappen at the Belgian GP. In Formula 1, words such as masterclass, dominant, and greatness are often overused when describing a driver or his performance. But for Max Verstappen, the weekend of the 2022 Belgian Grand Prix was all these things and more as he cruised to his 9th victory of the season and his 28th victory overall in his career. What seemed like a damage limitation weekend turned into one of Verstappen's greatest drives and a serious statement of intent from Red Bull, returning from the summer break. Verstappen appeared to be entirely at one with the RB18 and the track from the very beginning of the first practice session at Spa-Francorchamps. The outlook for his weekend, though, was bleak, as he took a host of new engine components, which meant that penalties were likely to be handed to him. Verstappen started the race from 14th, with the reigning world champion eyeing a podium to salvage his weekend. As the dust settled from the first lap of the race, Verstappen was up in 8th place, and a perfectly timed safety car bunched up the field. In a stroke of good luck for Max, his title rival Leclerc had to pull off the track when a piece of his visor tore off and lodged in the brake duct on the right side of his car. Surprisingly, it was discovered after the race that the object that became stuck in Leclerc's vehicle was in fact a piece of Verstappen's tear-off. After the restart caused by the safety car, Verstappen was absolutely dominating in the RB18 he was driving as he passed car after car with a straight line lead of about 30 km per hour. Thanks to DRS. By the 8th lap, Verstappen had already moved into one of the podium positions, and from there on out, the rest is history. Once again, Red Bull carried out a sound plan, and thanks to Verstappen's excellent race management, the team had a 1-2 finish, allowing him to extend his lead in the championship to 93 points. After the race, several drivers commented on Verstappen's performance, describing it as out of this world and on another planet. Verstappen's victory in the 2022 Belgian GP was only the second time in the history of Formula 1 that a driver won consecutive races when starting from 10th or below, something that hasn't happened in over 60 years. Which other comeback caught your attention in the year 2022? Let me know in the comments section below. That will be all for today's video. Thanks for staying tuned. Please don't forget to hit the subscribe button and notification bell so that you can always get to watch more amazing videos like this. See you in the next video.